Welcome to Maison Otaku. Come in, have a seat.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
We've got a great episode lined up for you today. Great show today. But first, the news. Genuinely big news, actually, this month. I mean, probably some of the biggest news we've seen in the past 10 years in anime. And that is, of course, Viz, that titan from Japan, has resurrected the Sailor Moon license in a completely unedited subtitled version.
And tacked on an official U.S. release of Sailor Stars for the first time in forever.
Yes. After years of license mongering by Deke and Saban, after years of you will never see this, this is one of those apocalyptic...
Yeah, we didn't see this coming.
Yeah. And it's exciting. It's thrilling. We're very happy about it. I've been very happy with the quality of the subtitles based on what I've seen online.
Right.
The availability is awesome. The lack of heavy commercials during the episodes is nice.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But that's why it's great.
Yep.
But guys.
Yeah.
Guys, we have to have a talk here.
Big question, just one little question.
One little question. Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Seriously. Like, you know, it's nice to give the ladies what they want. You know, we understand this.
I like giving the ladies what they want. Things that are cylindrical. Things that are hairy. Things that make them walk funny.
But seriously, we got Rose of Versailles,
which is amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you licensed it. I'm not bitching. And then Sailor Stars, which is another thing. Why have you not licensed Legend of the Galactic Heroes? Anyone out there now who is watching this, who is a licenser or knows someone who is, just bright slap them.
Bright slap them hard.
Yes.
Bright slap them Super Robot Wars hard.
Yes. Yeah, the kind of bright slapping that fixed Shinji.
And get Legend of the Galactic Heroes licensed. And Robot Carnival.
Yeah, and Robot Carnival, yes.
But, genuinely though, we are thrilled to see Sailor Moon back available in the States. We're equally excited that Rose of Versailles received a license.
Oh yeah.
Maria Watches Over Us got a license. Utena was resurrected. These are all great things. These are shows that previously would not have received such treatment. Come on. You gave us Space Adventure Cobra, you can give us Legend of the Galactic Heroes. We're counting on you.
Yeah, you already gypped us out of Gundam X, which you promised us.
Help us, Discotheque. You're our only hope.
Yes.
But after that impassioned plea for Legend of the Galactic Heroes...
getting on to today's topic. Now, in our past couple episodes, we've been, a little touchy-feely, talking about, man tears and love stories and things of that nature. So, I think we need to inject a little testosterone into this show, don't you, Justin?
I would agree this. We need a figure that is so imposing that lesser men are threatened by its very existence.
Yep.
Maybe a little too much.
Yes.
That's another episode.
Yep.
But
we're talking about that most manly of undertakings, which is piloting a giant robot.
Yes. Piloting a giant robot is a grand tradition that goes back as far as that manliest of science fiction authors. Okay, not Edgar Rice Burroughs. That second manliest of science fiction authors, Robert A. Heinlein, who titled the book that debuted the modern mecha as we know it, Starship Troopers. That's a man title. That's Ernest Hemingway sat back and said, well, I could probably read that.
Disclaimer, the movies have nothing to do with the books.
Yeah. But ever since then, mecha has been a thing for men. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Mostly men. Damn it, Gunbuster!
Well, no, there's more realist... Oh, wait, yeah, that was a girl. Anyway,
Anyway,
back on topic. So yes, but today, because it's all well and good to watch someone pilot a giant robot, but the real thing is to get out there and do it. And since the U.S. military hasn't gotten off their cheap asses and upgraded from those crappy little K suits we have, the next best thing is playing video games.
yes. And we have some great examples for you of what games you should spend your money on to give you a chance to live that vicarious dream. Mech Pilot.
This week, Justin and I will be talking about a couple of our favorite mecha games out there. This is by no means a definitive list, but these are the ones that speak most deeply to us and really scratch that itch.
Yeah. And we did want to bring up first, before we get too far into this, one of the big topics that came up when we were discussing putting this episode together was immersion. The ones that made us most feel like mecha pilots. And, of course, an early piece to bring up are both the classic BattleTech pods, which you can still find at some very, very exclusive arcades, and the great Konami game, Steel Battalion. These are great simulations,
But they're prohibitively expensive. In fact, thanks to the crappiness of the newest Steel Battalion on the Kinect, prices for the original Xbox game have skyrocketed.
yes.
Used to be able to get it for around 100 and 150 bucks if you get one without a box. Now, even without a box, you're still looking 300 or 400.
Yeah. That's a shame. I have played Steel Battalion a few times. It's fantastic. There's also a second reason why we're not bringing these up, and that's because, as I said before, we wanted something distinctly anime. Something with that zero-G feeling, that speed of combat that you love when you're watching.
Yep. And Justin and I were discussing this a bit earlier, and I think you said it quite well. You have two main lines of thinking about what mechs are. One is that they're the natural progression of the main battle tank, like Steel Battalion, like BattleTech. And the other one is that they are the natural progression of the fighter jet, which is more the design philosophy in our stuff is going for.
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be very obvious. You've got, of course, Robotech / Macros. That's very, very, very fighter jet. But even with Gundam, even with Votoms and the Tactics, you have that fighter jet, fighter pilot mentality. And so when you want to play that, when you want to experience that, firstly, the games that are actually licensed off of the properties are not a good way to go.
No, sadly. Gundam has so much potential for good games, but it's just a wasteland of shovelware. Sadly, I think the best Gundam game, in my opinion, is probably MS Saga, which, long story short, is a generic JRPG just with Gundam stuff instead of fantasy stuff.
Yes. And to me, the best Gundam game has been the Dynasty Warriors Gundam game.
And once again...
Yeah. Great fun, good motion controls.
But it's not a mech head game.
It is a step above the shovelware that is Journey to Jabro. But then again, I'm pretty certain that there are Tiger games that are a step above Journey to Jabro.
Oh, they're feeling that burn all the way over in Japan.
Oh, yes. Now, Mike, of course, wanted to lead off on this one, and I gotta hand it to him because he grabbed the franchise that's really the best one for still kicking.
Yeah, definitely. The one that really, really speaks to me is Armored Core. I freaking love Armored Core, and I'm recommending the whole franchise, but I'm specifically going to be talking about Armored Core 4 Answer, because that is the one that just... The level of polish and detail in that game is astounding.
It's very difficult to say the word polish when you're talking about a From Software product.
Yes.
From is wonderful for fogging in all the things in the background. if it can be done with 1 polygon, why do it with 8? But they did a great job of at least mimicking next-gen graphics with 4-answer.
Oh, that's the thing. It's like, the only thing graphically that you could say against it is that, some of the textures on the buildings and whatnot aren't that great. And some of the polygons are kind of simple, and that's completely legitimate. But the whole reason they do that is you can destroy pretty much everything you see, so...
Absolutely. If it explodes, does it have to look that great?
Mm-hmm.
And what is important is how the mechs look.
Mm-hmm.
And the mechs look fantastic. And the mechs are, of course, the series party piece, infinitely customizable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, basically... didn't Kawamori originally work with them on this project?
Yeah, Shoji Kawamori was involved.
Yeah, essentially, when they were first developing the first Armored Core, they went to Kawamori and they said, okay, we want to make a game where you can take a part from any mech, stick it on any other mech, and have it still look good. And at which point I'm pretty sure Kawamori just looked at them and said, I agree.
Yes. There are few mecha designers above Shoji Kawamori in our estimation. Now, granted, we differ upon who's above Kawamori in our estimation. I'm very Kotoki. I love Kotoki's work.
I like Kotoki.
Yeah. But you've also always been an Okawara fan, and I just don't get it. He's so round. So very, very round.
Fair enough. But anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about it, the customization in this game. The stat sheets. Holy crap, the stats. It's, if you are someone who likes just endless min-maxing, like actually gets enjoyment out of sitting there, taking and picking each part and saying, okay, I want this to go with this, to go with that. But then take all of that hard, tedious work and use it in fast-paced, reflex, necessary mecha action. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's so rules heavy and so specific on what each thing does, but when you're out in battle, you don't think about it. In fact, most of the battles are so fast, you don't even have time to think. You don't pilot your mech so much as you feel it.
Yes. And the online multiplayer, not something you get to say very often about anything Japanese developed.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, you just don't get it. Leads to, well, fantastic battles, right?
Yep. Like, check this one out, for instance. So, basically, you can be schmuck every man with a gun running along the ground, or you can do that. Why the hell does anyone play Call of Duty?
You could be a mecha pilot.
Yeah, the f***.
The
It's like, you saw that. That is some fast-paced, heart-pounding mecha action right there. You're zipping all over the place, getting shot at from 6 different angles, shooting people from 6 different angles. Why would you rather be a schmuck with an M16?
Now, granted, we're not out to tell you shouldn't be a schmuck with an M16.
Oh, yeah.
Broaden your horizons. Yeah. An M16's nice. 16 different missile packets?
That's
much better.
Mm-hmm.
And...
But, I mean, and talking about variety, that's the other nice thing about Armored Core. The franchise itself has a bit of something for everyone. If you want super fast, zippy around combat, 4 Answer, the one I'm mainly talking about, is the one for you. If you want more crawling on the ground, nitty-gritty combat, 5 and Verdict Day are great for you. If you want somewhere in between, 1 through 3 are perfect.
Yes. This is a franchise that's been around since the first days of the PS1, really. And it's progressed at a very we're doing our own thing rate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you knew what you were doing with the first titles, you still know what you're doing. You can still kind of jump in and play like that. It's relatively inexpensive, too.
Oh, yeah. 4 Answer, you can probably get frickin' off the shelves at any any game store anyway, for God, I think it's like $20 now.
Yes. So $20, you can do that, and all paced to some really nice techno.
Well, it's not even. Well, there's a little bit of that definitely, but it has this great atmospheric, like these epic symphonic pieces with choirs going on in the background. You have some really heart-beating, catchy tunes where you have no idea what they're saying. That's kind of a trademark of music from the series, but you don't care because it sounds awesome. And in 4 Answer, I was talking about, sitting down and spending hours doing min-maxing. The garage music, the music that you're listening to while you're in there doing that is just perfect tone for that. It's really kind of a zen experience, static equipping your mech in 4 Answer.
And really, for the individual, for play, it's one of the best. Now, I'm going to slightly sidetrack us to something that goes from the very play-focused aspect of Armored Core, completely different franchise, from fantastic video game producer and noted crazy person Hideo Kojima. Kojima took a break from Metal Gear Solid. Such a break that actually he produced another game, and that game had the demo disc for the next Metal Gear game. And that was its really big selling point, because nobody really knew what the hell was going on. Kojima was doing a robot game?
Yeah.
Okay, this will probably be insane. And it was.
Yeah.
But Zone of the Enders is some of the most fluid, mind-expanding gameplay. Armored Core puts you in the pilot seat, granted over the shoulder, but it puts you in the pilot seat. Zone of the Enders makes you the lead character.
Yes.
Granted, in the first one you play as Leo, which was not so great.
I liked Leo. It's better than playing as Raiden.
Yeah, that was kind of an odd period for Kojima.
Yeah.
In the second, you play as Dingo. Most of you have forgotten that they named the lead character Dingo.
I did.
But you are playing as that lead character. And the combat, because of the way it goes, for the most part when you're traveling from area to area, you're just kind of behind the mech and it's flying along or it's ice skating along because movement is odd.
I'm sorry, but I just, whenever there weren't enemies around, I would just be like, float down.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to knock the ice skating.
But when enemies did arrive, the camera shifted to this fixed perspective, and you just watched yourself as your own anime episode played out that you happen to be controlling. The variety of attacks, the brilliance of the visuals, the high quality mecha designs from the designer behind Gundam X, all led to this amazing game. Followed up by a second amazing game that said, okay, well, we did a really good game that was only about 3 hours long with a somewhat annoying lead character, cutscenes that never really went anywhere, and gameplay that had everyone raving. What if we took that gameplay, gave it even more attacks, more enemies, and then gave it an awesome lead character, some really trippy cutscenes, and more gameplay, and some cell shading. That seems to be really big, because this was about the same time that Auto Modelista hit. Net result, a classic. An amazing game. A game that was so good that, mostly because also Kojima was kicking them and saying, I won't do any more Metal Gear if you don't give me back my Zone of the Enders. Fine, reissue it. And I did. Which is a good way to acquire it because the collector prices for Zone of the Enders, the second runner, are off the charts.
Yep. If you are looking for it, though, they did put out a PS3 HD bundle of the first and second games together.
Well, that's the reissue I'm talking about.
Really? That's going for a lot now?
That's not going for as much as the original, but it's still up there. It's
damn
more than you'd expect for a PS3 reissue bundle. And that's because it gave people that taste. Everyone who plays Zone of the Enders, you can kind of tell because they just go, oh yes, I love Zone of the Enders. And everyone who hasn't played Zone of the Enders kind of goes, Zone of the what?
Yeah.
And then you say, well, it's by the guy that did Metal Gear Solid. And their eyes glaze over and they think, well, that's not going to go much of anywhere, is it?
Yeah. Well, one of my friends, actually, that I was showing Armored Core 4 Answer to because he really liked the sound of it, he's a bit of a newer kid, but one of the few ones who actually knows a bit of the things we're talking about. And he was talking about all the mecha stuff he's into, and he's like, you know what was awesome? That one game for PlayStation 2, Zone of the Enders? Yeah, man, that was the shit. Mind you, this is the same kid who says the most influential mecha series for him was Megas XLR. So that just shows you the wide appeal of this.
Yeah. And it is very appealing. There is a multiplayer mode. It's nowhere near as polished as Armored Core's multiplayer mode, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I will be fair here. The multiplayer that I showed you for Armored Core is basically that's it. There's really only multiplayer versus, and you can do co-op on a few of the main missions.
Yeah. Zone of the Enders is a bit like playing...
Well, it's kind of like Double Dragon's multiplayer.
It is a bit like Double Dragon's multiplayer. It's terrible. It's really terrible. It was a complete afterthought. I'm pretty sure they included it as a joke. It's almost based upon the same gameplay as the original Mario Brothers. Not Super Mario Brothers, Mario Brothers. And ignore it.
Well, honestly, the only thing I ever used it for is I would go in versus mode and go versus computer and use it to practice.
Yes. And practicing does help you a lot in the game because, yes, you'll use the key attacks a lot, but when you actually sit down and go, okay, I'm going to actually learn these moves, you will find that you are using these moves more and more. It is a somewhat fighting game aesthetic.
Yeah, the whole dominant strategy wall really doesn't exist for this game. It's because even if you can effectively, XX circle or whatever your way through it, the attacks are so cool that you just want to do them.
Mm-hmm. And the game is just cool throughout. Brilliant visuals, amazing music as well.
Oh yeah.
The theme is fantastic. just watch the original trailer for Second Runner, and if that doesn't sell you...
Well, if that doesn't sell you, watch the intro from the first one.
Yes. And you will be sold. Zone of the Enders. Well, here's a clip.
Programmed to blow up at the core of Almon. In case of need, Ada will start up the explosion system automatically. It's programmed to do so.
Ada, please answer my question. You're going to Almon, aren't you?
That was just some amazing stuff.
Yeah, you can't beat that with a stick.
Can't beat it with a stick, and I've tried.
Yeah. But we also want to talk to you about some of our, I guess you could call them honorable mentions.
Yeah, alternates.
Yeah. And mine's kind of an interesting divergence from Armored Core. It's kind of the other end of the field. This is getting out of the realm of, straight, hardcore mech head action and going straight into an arcade-style shooter. And that, of course, is Omega Boost. This is... It's so simple, yet so fun.
A very elegant game, great example of a shooter, great example of some of the variety that can be done with a shooter when you take on the mecha aspect as opposed to just sticking with the traditional spaceship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is sort of like, a lot of the, side-scrolling or top-down shooters and thought, let's do that but 3D. And it's a complete, go anywhere thing. Of course there is a given battle space, but you're not on rails or can only move about the screen. It's you face any direction. A lot of times you're twisting around and you gotta get a little dizzy sometimes doing it, but that's just all part of the experience.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to kind of break a rule here because we said nothing too difficult, nothing too expensive. And I have to bring up the one franchise that Sega rolled out many years ago that never really stood up to the console porting because the controls were so much a part of the experience, and that's Virtua On.
Oh, God.
If you can find a Virtua On arcade machine anywhere near you, try it. Pump as many quarters into that sumbitch as you can. You're going to find it's worth it. Hit the continue. Don't worry. You're never going to win the fucking oversized inflatable hammer at the ticket counter. Play Virtua On. Play Virtua On until they close the arcade. Play Virtua On until they ask you to leave.
Yeah.
Play Virtua On, because you will sit there with both control sticks, and at first you're going to look, what what's this going to do? Is this going to do what I want it to do? And it doesn't do what you want it to do.
Well, especially if you're used to modern first-person shooters, because that is not what they do.
No. But then you'll kind of go, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yep.
And before you know it, I need more quarters. I'm selling a kidney. I'm selling a kidney for quarters. Give me quarters. And it'll eat your quarters, and you'll be glad it's eating your quarters. And the arcade will be glad somebody's pumping quarters into this thing because it takes up a lot of space. And
Especially the two-player cabinet.
Especially the two-player cabinet. And most people walk right by it going, what the heck's the game with the robots?
Which is why even at Cedar Point, it's still only a quarter to play.
Yes. And there you go. There's a good reason to go to Cedar Point. If the machine is still there, there's Virtual.
And no one's ever on it.
No.
I will say, though, if you're not looking to sell a kidney, the Sega Saturn did have a pretty good port of it. And they did come with a controller for it. Good luck finding it. You'll pay a bit for it. But the gamepad controls did actually translate pretty well. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for any other Virtual On games because the console versions of those were just... I think a debacle is a good word for it.
A debacle, a schmozzle. I'm sure the British have plenty of slang that we can apply.
Yeah. Shite.
Shite.
I think the Irish
shite.
have that there, yeah.
Now, as to why we're so on about this right now. I think a big part of it is actually partially down to Titanfall, if you really want to get into it. Here is a modern AAA, big budget, big advertising campaign game with mechs in it, with mecha in it, that aren't really the star. Yes, there's a lot of build-up and a lot of drama, and they are important. But it was so important in the game design that the mecha are something you can take down, something that the guys on foot can deal with. They're not a problem. So you don't get that I am the mecha pilot, I am the hero feel from being in the mecha, being in the Titan. Lost Planet, Capcom franchise. Very rarely did they push that, and you get to pilot robots.
Well, yeah, when Lost Planet 2 came out, there were all the trailers, and because I remember I saw some gameplay footage on G4 when they had Cinematech on there, and they would show gameplay with the mech, and I forgot they were the same franchise for a second.
Yeah. You're not going to see a AAA title that is a mecha title. It's becoming as much a niche as survival horror, as much a niche as the classic top-down or side-scroll shooter, the turn-based RPG, and we're not going to get any support from the industry to promote this genre of game.
Yep. And I guess that's why we're here. We're taking it upon ourselves to tell those of you out there who may not be aware of this, hey, there's stuff out there. There are people making games for hardcore mech heads. There are not many of them, but they're there for you.
They're there for you. They've been there for you. Right up to the current generation with the latest editions of Armored Core, and stretching back well into the 16-bit era. I'm sure with enough time we could dig up some 8-bit stuff. That at least is licensed 8-bit stuff.
Oh yeah, there's oh crap, I just forgot its name. It was actually a prequel to Assault Suits Vulcan, released in the U.S. as Cybernator. Yeah, have fun finding that one too, by the way.
But we're here to tell you, give it a try, because the more of us that give it a try, and the more of us that stand up and say, we enjoy this is what is fun, the more chance we're going to get to experience even more chances to have this kind of fun. So, naturally you've probably gleaned by now that we are big mecha fans. And it's Mike's turn, and we thought first maybe something classic and massive and over the top like Votoms or Raideen or Iria.
Yeah, any number of giant robot, massive explosions, lots of people dying.
And then you decided
Well, yeah,
that.
I looked at it. You know what's awesome? This one mecha series. You know what's even more awesome? The incarnation of it that doesn't have mechs.
Stick
Yeah.
with him on this
Yes.
one, folks. I wasn't quite sold either.
Yeah. So, I am talking about Full Metal Panic, specifically the Fumoffu spin-off series. Now, I want to talk about the original for a second. It had some promise, but it had a lot of problems. You see, it's kind of bipolar. It's serious mecha action 1 minute, slapstick high school comedy the next. And to be honest, most anime just don't pull that off very well.
No, it's very difficult to be two things.
Yeah.
The only time I've seen two things pulled off really well was the second of the 3 Tenchi OAVs, which succeeds at being both genuinely good space opera and a fantastic harem comedy.
Yep. So, the creator pretty much looked at this, and I think he was always kind of wanting to do a straight-up love comedy type setup. And it's funny because, I mean, I love the mecha designs in Full Metal Panic. They're great. They're actually very similar to a lot of my own designs. But it doesn't work. And these characters just work so much better in a high school love comedy setting. Now, it's funny because Fumoffu is actually a lot of things that I normally absolutely hate, and Justin can attest to this.
Right.
It's modern, it's 2D CGI, it's zany off-the-wall comedy, and it's a high school love comedy, like I said.
Yeah.
I absolutely abhor that most of the time, but this it is so well done.
You will never get this man to sit through his and her circumstances and enjoy it.
Oh.
You might get him to sit through it just on the basis of, okay, at least I've checked it off my list, but he would rather stab himself in the eye with a fork
Yeah.
than watch his or her circumstances or Haganai or any one of the latest crop of we're all misfits in a club at school and we do zany things
Yeah.
tee-hee.
Well, then it's down to... Okay, now stick with me on this one. Full Metal Panic is like the Smashing Pumpkins. Now, again, stick with me. Now, as Justin and anyone who knows me will attest, with many exceptions, of course, I like my music, generally speaking, hard and aggressive.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that Billy Corrigan sounds nowhere near as good when he's trying to be hard as he does when he's being whiny. It's the same with Full Metal Panic. It's when it's trying to be hardcore mecha series, it just doesn't work. But zany off-the-wall comedy, like I said, these characters and settings just work so much better with it.
Yeah. It's authenticity.
Yeah.
Full Metal Panic is not Gasaraki. It's not Armored Trooper Votoms. It'll never be those things. So the window dressing that made it sometimes kind of like those was just that. It's very plasticky. It's very inauthentic.
It's a bit like when Hank took Bobby and tried to train him to be a propane salesman. It's doing something you can tell it doesn't want to be.
Right. So they decide, okay, let's huck all this out the window, but keep the idea of the social misfit because he's a military hardliner.
Yep.
And throw him into all these wacky situations. And you get your typical fish out of water sitcom.
Yep.
Of course, a fantastic tradition of those throughout the 70s and 80s and well into the 90s.
Yep. Well, and that brings me to one of my favorite things about the series, the main male protagonist, Sosuke Sagara. This man is my hero. He takes that character that's honestly become character type, I should say, that's become all too commonplace nowadays of someone who's just completely socially retarded, but he makes that cool. Yeah. See, the reason he's so socially retarded is he grew up in all of the messed up, war-torn parts of the world. He was holding an AK before he could ride a bike, and they never go into it too much in Fumoffu. I think they talk about it in the original series, but he hooked up with some kind of UN task force. At least I believe it's delegated by the UN. But anyway, he's on a mission to protect this girl at this high school, Kanami Chidori. And so his mission is to pretend to be a normal high school, Japanese high school student. Problem, he has absolutely no idea what it means to be a normal Japanese high school student.
Yes. Consider, if you will, the fantastic Bond film You Only Live Twice. Whereupon James Bond, as played at that point in time by Sean Connery, has to blend in with the locals. So they give him a wig, some really sharp eyebrows, and say, "Alright, James Bond, Sean Connery, this makes you Japanese." The 6'6" hairy guy with the jowls and the Scottish brogue. Totally a Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that it's konnichiwa.
Yeah.
I was like, totally Japanese. Same principle.
Yeah. Yeah, this is... Well, the first episode is just great because it opens up with, he keeps a hair in his footlocker at school so he can tell if someone's been messing with it. And a girl who's gotten sweet on him sends him a love letter. Sagara, thinking, oh, someone's put something nasty in my locker, decides to detonate it with some plastic explosives just to be safe. And this is the kind of thing you expect out of him routinely. It's... Well, and I just love because, like, if I got stuck playing some RPG that someone decided to do some kind of high school love story with, I'd be like, well, I know what character I'm writing.
Yes.
Because, like, and that's exactly like, it's like, the whole thing is some kind of love story RPG, and then they brought in a new player who's used to playing military combat games.
Yes. It is really fantastic. It's really well put together. And it's 15-minute episodes. Each episode is 15 minutes. So that's a perfect length for zany comedy because it gets to the joke, it delivers the joke, it ends. That's all you need. So if you liked Azumanga Daioh, if you liked Cromartie High School, really, if you like Cromartie High School, you'll like this one. And if you're wondering what the hell am I talking about when I say Cromartie High School, I'm going to punch you in the back of the front of the face. Go watch Cromartie High School first, then go watch Fumoffu, because then you'll have earned the right to watch other things that aren't Cromartie High School.
Yeah, but and I just want to finish up, honestly, talking about some of my favorite episodes on there. The first episode's a great way to start. You have one where basically the school's rugby team is on, well, their whole career has been one big losing streak. So they bring in Sagara, thinking, oh, he can be their coach, what's the worst that can happen? And he goes Full Metal Jacket on them. Like completely turns them inside out and insane. Or there's the wonderful episode where basically there's this contest in between them where they have to go out and hunt women, i.e., see how many girls they can invite on dates. He, of course, takes this a bit more literally and actually...
kind of like the music video for Superheroes by Ed Guy?
Yes. Watch that music video. That's what Sagara does. Mm-hmm. The only episode I didn't really like was the Hot Springs episode, but surprise, surprise, the Hot Springs episode is rarely the good one of any of them. Right. But I will give it this much, though. I absolutely hated it at first. Watching it again, it's not terrible. No. It has terrible parts, but there's... Well, they actually make fun of the conveniently placed everything, where it's just the girls are moving around and there's always something in the way of their stuff.
And sometimes all it takes is a cheap visual gag to keep things rolling along like that. Kind of like the frequent use of cheap visual gags throughout Galaxy Express 3.9 with the conductor.
Yes, yeah, actually. especially in the shower scenes.
Oh, yes.
Yep. And with that, we have once again established that Leiji Matsumoto is superior to something else.
Once again, before we roll out tonight, we would like to remind everyone of Colossal Con coming up next week.
Yep.
And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, no, actually, it'll be this week by the time this airs.
Yes, this week by the time this airs. And going to be a lot of fun. Mike will be there whole weekend. And if you're lucky, you might spot me on Sunday. So, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. Use everything we've said in both the dealer room and the Otaku flea market.
Yep.
And as always, yeah.
So, as always, I'm Mike.
And I'm Justin, not forgetting my lines this time, saying, enjoy what you watch.
And share what you enjoy.